revenge is still sought. The penance starts again, cast into a trance, and the nightmare, it carries on. Pretty much sums up where I've been fighting, not in the physical sense, but in the intellectual, fate versus free will, corruption versus truth, equality versus status quo kind of sense. And I've been losing. Of course, it is hard to win such a fight when you're not only battling the status quo, a corrupt status quo, and you are outmanned and undergunned and forced to play within, certain rules. And most importantly, when people who egged you on and said they had your back, as long as you're the one who breaks the door down, then betray you in your hour of need and, well, lie. So, yes, a lot of meditation lately, a lot of compromise. Oh, how I despise such things. But on the positive side, at least one person who has recently reached out to me is of the same mindset and is walking a very similar path. And, it's good to have a second person I can trust. Yeah. Well, two. Yes, two friends I can trust. Both of them foreign-born women. Neither of them close to where I'm at. One older than me, one younger than me. Both witches. One who I previously mentored and one who I kind of am currently mentoring. Ah, yes. We are all born out of darkness and put on this path through blood and pain. So sing with our voices of thunder and rage. But what I want to talk about today in the left-hand path is simply do not allow yourself to be used. Seems simple, right? In other words, hold people accountable when they lie to you, when you're given false promises, when you uphold your end of a bargain and the other person doesn't. Call them out. Don't allow yourself to be a pawn. Walk away from that situation. It'll never get better. Don't believe the lies. And make sure to roll your eyes at platitudes. Platitudes are the lowest form of conversation. It is what average, unintelligent people tend to spew when they're caught in a lie, when they have no legitimate answer. And again, I've been saying that for 20 years. They're very common among baby boomers. Like, if you call somebody out and they know they're in the wrong, they don't actually give a rebuttal or a counter argument. They string together like a bunch of platitudes and cliches that don't make sense, but it's to, create a feeling, not an actual argument, a feeling, and they think like in a lot of cases like, oh, it sounds deep and philosophical, or it sounds professional and corporate, to their lazy average minds. It's like, like very like George Bush-esque, like, like that, or Bill Clinton-esque, like, American ingenuity. Yeah, they believe that. It's like, hit the pedal, like, we gotta fight them over there, so we don't have to fight them over here. Yeah, America's getting better, America's stronger, oceans can protect us, Financial stability through conservative investment, compassionate conservatism. A lot of times these boomer platitudes will be anathema to each other, but they to someone who doesn't think deep or overthink, they sound like, oh, that sounds, that sounds good. Yeah. Even though what they're saying contradicts each other. So what I mean, when you're being used, you tend to think if you push through it, things will get better. That if you just hold out, you'll keep convincing yourself, if you just hold out just a little bit longer, that what is just out of reach will finally be given to you. That they will have no choice but to, provide the reward that has been so long overdue. Something that in a lot of cases, by rights, you were cheated out of from the beginning. So you're already in a situation where you're doing far more to get something than, let's say, any of your contemporaries had to do. But you think there's this code of honor to where it's like, well, if I go above and beyond, they can't deny me, right? Like they have no choice. Like there are rules in place that all must abide by. They've been shoving these rules down my throat. No, no, no. Those rules don't exist. Those rules are chains. They're chains for you. There are chains for you to be used, to be exploited, to be taken advantage of, to do things that are beneath you while they can use corruption, favoritism, nepotism, cronyism, and tribalism to elevate those within those ranks that they choose while exploiting your labor, your intellect, your work ethic, whatever it may be, depending on the situation. But what it was promised is never coming. It's not only never coming, but they never had any intention of it, not even partially. This is why in situations like this, when such people are called out, they have no answers at all. At best, you'll get the cliche platitude answer. At worst, you'll get like, oh shit, like, he know, they'll look at him like he knows, he knows. But even then, in these situations, oftentimes you have to combat a sense of entitlement to even get them to admit that they're lying or that they've been lying to you the whole time. This is why you don't play these games. You just extract yourself from the situation, which can be difficult at times, but it is something you have to do. You can't allow yourself to continue to be used. I've spoken before, don't play a game that's obviously rigged. Expose these people where you can. Sometimes there are higher authorities you can expose them to, assuming these higher authorities aren't corrupt too, which in a lot of cases they are, and they're designed to protect the status quo and therefore agents of said status quo. That's why you don't operate within the system. Find other ways to expose them, other ways that you can put them in a situation where they have no choice but to answer questions that they have no legitimate answer for, and that in this situation, no one can protect them from having to answer. And if they try to, string a bunch of platitudes and cliches along as an answer, they'll be called out on it and be given no choice but to answer for their actions in detail. Been in this situation before. It is interesting when such entitled people are put in that situation. They can't get out of it. They have to provide an answer. It's quite interesting. It's also interesting how people who, egged you on and told you were right, who then betrays you and they're put in the same situation, how when they're under threat of, say, perjury, and you're talking about my Arlington days, funny how in that situation, they're backing up everything that they told you in person, but what they were too afraid to tell the protectors of the status quo. So you have to be aware of these situations. It is wise not to trust most people because most people are simply using you when you're useful to them. Some may seem friendly. They simply think that you have knowledge or abilities that can help them in their current situation. And they may even latch onto your cause as they may be in a similar situation. But, metaphorically speaking, when it comes time to breach the walls, swords drawn, you'll find yourself at best alone, at worst with their swords in your back and them praising the very status quo that they, urged you to lead a rebellion against. So, yes, it's a very, it's something you have to be aware of on the left-hand path. The crux of this is that never underestimate how cowardly most people are. That when push comes to shove, they'll bend the knee and fall in line and, praise the corrupt status quo, hoping for at best crumbs. Oftentimes crumbs that will never come, but at best crumbs. With no empathy for betrayal or no empathy for, the countless others who will fall victim to this corrupt status quo afterwards. Even if these people, had let known their rage, their raw emotions towards, this situation. In the end, most people fall in line. That's why they're sheep. That's why they have no free will. And that's why they'll always be prisoners of fate and slaves to somebody else's will. Be aware of these situations. Do not fall victim to them as I have. Use my experiences, learn from them. Embrace your free will, and you'll truly know what, you'll be one step closer towards getting your desires. Never deny your passion. Never fall in line. Never believe is what it is. Everything happens for a reason, timing and fate. That'll never get you to where you want to be. It'll only put you in chains. Chains that you will find will be more difficult to break every day you let them be wrapped around you. Hail Lilith.